Go home, go hard, go home. Touchdown like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, go home, go hard, go home. Yeah, these championship rings on my hands now. In my head I'm top 10, yeah, that's hands down. You a squad, now you're looking man down. Funny how foes turn to friends now. Drive a race car like a Atari now. Call filling up, I need product again. Treat the business like a playground, might slide on you. Don't me wrong, might slide on you. Do a backflip, cause I'm mad rich. I'm the definition of what that is. Go hard, go home, go hard, go home, go hard, go home, go hard, go home. Touchdown like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, go home.
What is up? What is up? What is up? Texas Longhorn fans. Yeah, we're here. Red River happened. It came and it gone. The river is still flowing. Longhorn Nation's not, but hey, we are going to keep our heads up. We're going to get up, and we are going to talk about that. Before we get started, though, shout out to all the baseball fans in Texas. Next week is going to be wild. Astros, Rangers, the Silver Boot for a chance to go to the World Series. Tim is sad because the Red Sox are not in the playoffs, and they haven't been in who knows how long.
Right.
But we are here to talk about Texas. That's all we're here to talk about. With my main man, Tim Wayne. Tim, how you doing tonight, man?
Hey, man, listen, I am disappointed. However, I still have faith in this Longhorn football team. There's some things that we're going to cover and talk about today. There's some things that need to be addressed. Me personally, I think there's quite a few things that need to be addressed because I do think we will be in Houston, or no, I'm sorry, Dallas on December, that first weekend of December. So, but in order for us to get there, these things need to be addressed before we get to that point. So let's get right to it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think we'll also be there. But I'm kind of in that one game at a time mentality. So we need to kind of take a step back. Wouldn't think about the college football playoff yet. Right now, I think we've got to reset our mindsets. I think we drank the rat poison that Nick told us not to drink, and we got poisoned. So
right
before we get started, of course, we are brought to you by the Fan Battle Sports Network. Huge shout out to those guys. Please visit us, fanbattlesports.com. You can go there to find the latest and greatest of the AFC South. It's actually turning out to be a pretty competitive division this year. Obviously, if you're a Colts fan, Jags fan, Mayo-eating Titans fan, or if you are a Texans fan, go there. Yeah, go there for all your needs. Also, we are on there. If you're also interested in joining the network and you want to start a podcast for a team, there is a form there that you could use to hit us up. We'll get you all set up, and we're trying to grow the network, so please feel free to go there. fanbattlesports.com. Follow us on Twitter. We've got a lot of activity going on in the Twitterverse. We are now up to, I believe it's 145 followers. So
145, baby.
We appreciate the support. Also, please go to our YouTube channel. We're Longhorn at Longhorn Fan Battle. We're up to 13 subscribers there. Would love to see you guys interact with us on the YouTube and on the Twitter. That is where we are mainly the most active. We'd love to see you guys there. So please follow us at LH Fan Battle on Twitter and at Longhorn Fan Battle on YouTube. All righty, Tim. Let's get to it. The Red River Thriller.
That's what they're calling it.
So let's really talk about this game here for a second.
Okay.
So Texas starts the game with the ball. Quinn, looked like a little RPO, two little in routes, right? You had A.D. Mitchell, and I believe it was Jordan Whittington come on a little 5-yard in routes, nothing complicated, right? After looking at it, initially I thought Quinn threw the ball early. After looking at it again, A.D. Mitchell gives up on the route. He actually doesn't complete the route. The OU defender gets in front of him and picks it off. Right off the bat, this team came out flat, right? Now,
absolutely.
We can argue all day whether that interception was Quinn Ewers' fault, whether it was A.D. Mitchell's fault. A.D. Mitchell actually had an opportunity, at least, offensive pass interference, something.
Yeah.
I would have taken 2nd and 25 and still had the ball, or first and essentially 10 from the 20-yard line.
Right.
For OU. So game starts off bad. The first 6 minutes of this game, probably the wildest 6 minutes I've ever seen. OU goes down and scores. Texas, I believe, moved the ball, but then had to punt. OU then punts, gets backed up in the end zone, punts again. They punt, and then it gets blocked. Recovered by Texas for a touchdown. Game. Very next drive, OU comes down to get down to about the 50. And then the unnecessary roughness on third down happens. I think Jade Barron, if I'm not, or Jaron Thompson, can't remember.
It was Thompson, I believe.
It was Thompson. OU is punting, running into the kicker. OU gets the ball back. I believe scores. It was just a weird, probably the longest first quarter in a Red River game I can remember in a long time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was that quarter was about 45 minutes. It's about 45 minutes.
I think it hedged on an hour. Honestly,
I was giving 45 minutes without the commercials, of course.
Oh, okay.
One of the things, and I've noticed this because I did watch the game again. Unfortunately, it was an obscene amount of commercials during this game. Way more. There was also a heavy amount of technical difficulties during the game.
That's right.
There were delays.
Yep.
There was quite a few things going on during the game. So I'm pretty sure that played a major part in it as well. But again, there was multiple TV stops. But neither here nor less, it was just that quarter was probably one of the weirdest quarters of football I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not just saying that just from the standpoint of like recency bias, but like literally, like you said, outside of the ads, that was a very weird quarter of football. I never seen Texas come out that flat. Usually, and we harped on this before about coming in and not starting flat, like playing a whole 4 quarters of football. Obviously, that was not the case with this. However, the defense did all that they could. Special teams did all that they could. They contributed into making a play and getting that thing tied up in the first quarter.
I felt like the defense, even though I think the defense eventually settles in, right? And we'll talk at least from a passing game perspective, they settled in. And we'll talk about Dylan Gabriel's essentially what eventually becomes the offense for the Sooners, which is his legs, right?
Right.
Dylan Gabriel threw 3 quarter, basically 85 to 95% of that game was an average passer.
Right.
I think at one point he was like 50% passing. Which is he was not. I don't care what any OU fan tells you. Dylan Gabriel did not outplay Quinn in the air. It wasn't even close.
Dylan Gabriel, he threw for 23 of 38. He threw for 285 yards, but he didn't turn the ball over.
Yes, that is the one thing that Dylan Gabriel did better than Quinn. And again, not Dylan Gabriel's fault. He should have had the one interception in the red zone that was dropped by Jaron Thompson. There are a couple of other. He did. Let's not sit there and think that Dylan Gabriel didn't take any risks, right?
He definitely took some risks.
And those 3 points in the back in the end zone that were dropped ended up being 3 points.
Right.
Heading into the half. I think it was a tie ball game.
Right. Yeah, it was tied.
So I think overall sloppy game for Texas.
It was sloppy. It was sloppy on both ends. Let's not sugarcoat the situation, right? This game was sloppy on both ends, on Texas end, on OU's end. This game was sloppy. There were a lot of things that went unnoticed, that did not get addressed. One of the things that I'd like to mention was a screen pass, not a screen pass, but a seam pass. I want to say this was also in the first quarter. It might be the second quarter. I can't remember, but it was a screen pass to JT Sanders that was a little bit high, which was also, I believe, turned into an interception as well. Yep. That was a very, very crucial point in the game to me. So not only did Quinn put it in a high spot. But Jatavian Sanders is also 6'4", so he was able to go and get it. However, one thing that was overlooked, and again, This is after watching this game again, right? Going through the agony of watching this game for a second time. The Oklahoma player that jarred the ball loose launched into Jatavian Sanders, which is something that you're not supposed to do. That's not supposed to be a part of the game. And it happened so quick because Jatavian Sanders is such a big guy, right? So you think, oh, ball jars loose. Well, the reason why the ball went in the air the way it did was because that player launched his body into a defenseless player, which should have been called for a pass, or it should have been called for penalty by launching into a player. That is on both collegiate and in the NFL. That is a no-go. You are not supposed to launch your body into a defensive player as they go up for a ball. Now, is that the end all be all? No. Should Quinn put that ball a little bit lower? Maybe. But in the end, it's not. I can't look at that at one play. There's also an enormous amount of holding on both Texas defensive line and Oklahoma's defensive line and offensive line. There was holding both ends. It was really sloppy. I told you, we were watching the game together. For y'all that are watching, I told him from jump, none of this is going to matter. They're getting no help. Texas ain't going to get any help. Oklahoma ain't going to get any help. It's basically, it's just going. Who wanted more? Who wants more?
I want to go back to that. I want to go back to the JT Sanders play real quick. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I don't want to dwell on it. But I haven't sat down and rewatched the entire game at this point. I probably should start rewatching the games. It's just so tough for me to do that.
Right. That's understandable as a fan.
But I have, not even as a fan, as somebody that is an avid, active podcaster, I should be rewatching games to have a better idea and analysis from a non-biased perspective of what I see, right? So, but I will say, I did rewatch a couple of plays, right?
Okay.
The JT Sanders obviously launching himself into JT Sanders that play. So the way I see this is at the end of the day, and I think the reason why they didn't call it is by the time the hit occurs, right, the defender's shoulder is what goes into Jatavian Sanders' chest. Right. I think that is the reason why it doesn't get called. If it was his head or any part of the head, now his head leans down, but his shoulder is the one that actually hits and makes contact with JT.
Right.
I also think it was, although it might have been a little bit high, Jatavian Sanders had his hands on the ball.
Right.
Even coming down-ish.
Yeah.
Until the hit occurs.
Right. So I get what you're saying. Yeah. Did he get hit where he got hit? Some people would say that is clear. However, they say do not leave your feet. And that guy, that safety, left his feet to hit this man for the ball to pop up the way it did. And it didn't dawn on me at first because it just happened so quick. It was like a boom boom type of situation, different type of play. But when you go back and you look at it, you're like, damn, why the ball? Because the ball goes straight up in the air. If you look at how the ball goes up, you're like, oh. And they don't really necessarily show all these angles, again, bunch of issues going on with the broadcasting, things like that. So you go back and you watch it, you're like, oh, they should have called that. And it wasn't called. So once that happened, and I kind of knew this was not going to be a ball game where it was going to be the cleanest game.
Sure.
What I would say for Oklahoma is that was a statement hit, right?
They're trying to make a statement. I think Oklahoma from the get-go was trying to make a statement.
You hit one of the best players in the team. You hit him in the mouth. Ball goes in the air. Turnover. And
I don't think JT plays the rest of the game after that hit. I didn't see him a lot.
He wasn't featured a lot. I would say he probably got. I mean, when you get hit like that, you get hit. Basically as you're limp, it does affect you a little bit more. When you're not able to brace for that hit, you're gonna feel that for sure.
The other play that I thought that kind of made it early seen that JT wasn't 100% and it was obvious was the very first play of the game. The little bubble screen to Xavier Worthy, JT whiffs on the block. If JT hits that block, it's a touchdown.
Yeah.
And he whiffs on the block to get in the backfield. I think we lose like 3 or 4 yards.
Right.
So the other play I want to talk about real quick, and then we can go on. And we're kind of in this and we'll talk about what we're wrong here in a little bit. And we're kind of already there. Is the on the 4th and 1 play. And now again, start hindsight is 2020. I could totally see us running this on 3rd down and then coming up with something different 4th down. It makes a lot of sense now. Right. What did you think about the face mask on the 4th down? To me, real quick, before you answer that, I think the face mask was irrelevant because he was already on. Right. What are your thoughts?
Same. I think the face mask was irrelevant. Play was basically over, right? But what's the rule? Rule is don't put your hands, don't grab at the face mask. Again, does that suck for Texas? Absolutely. Does that put Texas in a shitty situation? Sorry, Mom. Absolutely. But I mean, the play's over. They just kind of at that point, it just seems like this was a completely this game was reffed terribly. Again, on Oklahoma and Texas side. Again, there was stuff that Texas was doing trash, absolutely terrible.
We got away with a couple of calls.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely got away with a couple.
There was some stuff that Oklahoma was doing, absolutely terrible. They should have been called on, but that face mask, to me, at that point, it didn't even really matter. That play was dead.
Yeah, I would agree. But, yeah, I'm surprised even on the 4th down, despite what happened. I'm surprised she didn't run a little bootleg. I think you could have run a little bootleg and then maybe, again, I think Sark's a creative play caller. I'm not a play caller. I'm just a fan on the sidelines that likes to just pretend like he knows what he's talking about. But I thought that would have been perfect to like fake a bootleg and then maybe throw it back to Jonathan Brooks for like a screenplay or something like that. I don't know the logistics of that or how fast, do the offense. But then you're talking about do the offensive linemen get ahead of themselves and all of a sudden you got a legal man downfield. Like I don't know, but I thought there's an opportunity there for Sark to be a little bit more creative. I also do think that I thought Steve Sarkisian was bad in this game. And I think Steve Sarkisian is to blame for a lot. I'm gonna put
90% on this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put 90% on this on Sark. Yeah. This was absolutely a wretched game as far as it being called. I kind of want to go into a bit of a spiel, and I don't know where to start. But so basically, I'll say this. You have to, from Sark's perspective, this is probably one of the worst coach games I've seen him play. Worst coach game I've seen him call from start to finish. Of course, we've always talked and we've talked previously about games being called, Texas being a first half team versus a second half team, being consistent throughout from start to finish. All of that went out the window this weekend. This past weekend. The fourth down call was very weird. There was a point in time where Quinn, where this doesn't happen a lot, gets up under center. He gets up under center, but he doesn't have any big boys up front. I mean, they put the big boys in the back, but where you got two split, you got two wide receivers split off to the left. You got a tight end over here to the right. You got two big boys in the back. Cool. But in this standpoint, we talk about, a couple of days ago, you were on, the AFC South Fan Battle podcast. You're talking about the push tush, the tush push, right? The reason why the tush push is so effective is because how big Philly's offensive line is, right? They don't put any receivers out there. They get big as possible. They get the big guys. They put the big guys in the back, and then they just fall forward. And it's obvious. Do I absolutely hate it because I'm a Cowboys fan? Absolutely. In this case, you let a 220-pound linebacker absolutely destroy one of your running backs. You had somebody that was on the defensive line. You had him absolutely whiff on a block, right? Get all 12 personnel, 12 personnel, 12 personnel, 12 personnel. Get all of your big guys and just bowl that ball in there. There's no reason why they should not have scored on that play. If they score on this play, if you think about this, if they
Changes
score,
momentum.
the momentum changes. Texas goes up again, right?
I think they tie it. So they were supposed to tie it on this play, but then you take a look at, I think OU goes 3 and out after this, right? Texas, they punt, and then that's when Jonathan Gray scores on the long run.
No, this is not where they go. This is where Daniel Gable takes it 98 yards and scores.
Oh, that's right. It was a tie game at this point.
Right.
Okay.
So Texas,
that is, you're up 7.
You go up 7, right?
Yeah.
And mind you, earlier in this point, at this point in time, Oklahoma has burnt 2 timeouts already, right?
Yep.
So you look at it from this point, Texas goes up 7. Now you win it. Now, let's go.
Yeah.
But they didn't. Again, I don't know for the life of me why Texas, and I don't know what it is about these offensive coaches. Now, I'm going to sound really, really old. I'm going to date myself, but just again, from my experience playing football, if stuff begins to not work, if your game plan does not work, at one point in time, when do you go back to basics? Right? If you know for a fact, and we talked about this during the game, you cannot sit up in shotgun formation and just hand the ball off. You become predictable. What I told you what to expect the first game. I talked about it last week prior to the game. I said, what is going to happen? You can't just start throwing screens everywhere. I said it verbatim last week. Sark is going to throw a ball to Xavier Worthy as a screen. That's how he gets him in the game. And it's like, oh, come on. We know that this is happening. And this grows out of frustration. Now, mind you, I haven't played football in a couple years, but it doesn't take – if I know that that's coming, then Oklahoma, Brett Venables, that entire defense, they know that is coming. They know that this is coming. So, and it's the same way. Shotgun, Xavier's out to the right, usually out to the right. They throw a bubble screen. That's how you get him in the game. Stop that.
The wrinkle in that was they ran it to the left. But then JT, I think it's a moot point because then JT whiffs on the block.
Normally,
at the end of the day,
normally he doesn't whiff on those type of blocks.
Exactly. At the end of the day, if JT hits the block, that's going for a big game, right?
Normally, JT doesn't whiff on a block. It usually springs for a big play. It usually, on average, those plays at the start of the game, those are really what kind of get Xavier Worthy going. However, we've seen it too much. Did we forget just 3 years ago that was the way they started the game? Was that with Sark?
That was with Sark. It was 2 years. It was the heartbreaker. That was the heartbreaker game. That was 2 years ago.
So they run a screen play to Xavier Worthy. He goes 75 yards on the first play. It's the longest play from the line of scrimmage in Oklahoma versus Texas, like the Red River Shootout history. Right. Yep. It's the longest play from scrimmage. So they know it's coming. They do it every game. We see it. We know it. All I'm asking Sark to do, and this to me is why this game went the way it went, you didn't give them any looks.
Yeah.
You didn't give them any looks. They already know that this is coming.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I think it's interesting. And we'll talk about. Oh, there is another interesting thing Sark said. We'll talk about that here in a little bit because I tweeted from our Twitter account that morning about this. I want to talk to you about that. But at the end of the day, as bad as this game went for both sides, as sloppy as Texas played, they were up with basically a minute to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's the last thing I want to talk about is the last defensive drive, and then this is where I think PK gets some blame.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to quickly talk about the 2-for-1 because I think this is something that's come up in Texas Twitter and conversations I've had.
Are you talking about the Savion Red situation?
No. I'm talking about just the 2-for-1 in general. What I mean by 2-for-1 is coaches, and this isn't just a Sark thing, but Sark is like the master at this. Right. Coaches do this a lot. If it's like 3rd and 10, 3rd and 14, 3rd and basically 3rd and 6 or above, right?
Right.
They run a play knowing that it's like, okay, we have 4th down. If we have 4th in this, we're going to go for it anyway.
Right.
And a lot of teams do this, and they don't run a play to run the play anymore. They run the play knowing that they're going to do something on 4th down. And so it's like, well, if I at least get 3rd and 4 or 4th and 4, I set myself up. Yeah, they try to shorten the field. I absolutely hate that strategy. And all coaches do it. Sark loves doing it. Shane Steichen for the Colts loved doing it. I don't watch the Cowboys a lot, but I'm sure your boy Mike McCarthy pretends like he knows what he's doing when he does it. But it is something that is like evolved into the game.
Right.
What do you think about that? Because I absolutely hate it.
I get why you hate it. Now, what you want to always be, and again, this is just football basics, football 101, guys. You want to have a 3rd down. You want to have a manageable 3rd down, right? So, from my end, again, I'm no coach, but if I was in that situation, would I try to either go for the actual 1st down, or do I want to give myself an opportunity to go for it on 4th down with without having to go that sort of a distance? Now, one thing that I did notice that Sark did that they basically just protected the sticks. Oklahoma, they basically protected the sticks. And when you get into a situation where they just protect the sticks, makes things a little bit cramped. They're not really going to move off of it. Again, this is where you expect Sark's creativity to come into it. And to be fair, Texas was not that terrible when it comes to 3rd down conversions. Let me pull it up right quick here.
Texas
3rd down conversions, they were 5 and 14. 4th down efficiency, Oklahoma was 0 and 1. Texas was 0 and 3, 3 and 75% basically. So was it great? Absolutely not on 3rd down, but they were still able to kind of push the ball along. In a situation where if I'm on the other, for me, if I'm in the 20 or the 30 and further on Oklahoma's 30, I'm on Oklahoma's 30 and it's 3rd and 10. Yeah, I'm gonna try to narrow that down to where I can go for it on 4th down. If I know for a fact that I'm not gonna go for the field goal. And shout out to Auburn for doing his thing. He actually did okay this week. So yeah, in this case, if I'm trying to be aggressive, yes, I am going to try to shorten the field up. We do know that again, Oklahoma for the majority of the game when they did on 3rd down, they basically protected the sticks. However, I don't necessarily like doing run plays on this. Does it give do you expect it on the defense for your offense to run the ball on 3rd down? Absolutely not. Has it been successful for us in the past? And have we been successful at it within the last couple of games? Absolutely. I think that goes more towards the running back than the play calling. I just think that there's a hard we really do have something special in the backfield, even though it wasn't really on display like I would have liked it to be this week. We just weren't able to move Oklahoma like we should have this last week. However, again, if I'm on the 30, I'm gonna take my opportunities. I'm gonna try to do what I can, shorten up that field for fourth down. It preferably you want to be around 4th and 3.
Yeah.
4th and 1 is always good.
Yeah.
But it didn't work like that, and obviously that was something that he wasn't necessarily trying to do. He wasn't aggressive. Again, he was playing to shorten up that 4th down conversion.
Yeah.
Now, Jonathan Brooks, to be fair, and Jonathan Brooks did have 22 carries for 129 and a touchdown. What really helped hurt us is Dylan Gabriel running for 14 attempts for 113 and a touchdown. That 44-yard scamper that he had, absolutely gut-wrenching. It was 3rd and 19, and he was able to rip off 44 yards. So that actually hurt us a lot. Jordan Linton had an absolutely fantastic game. He had 10 for 115. Xavier Worthy, 8 for 108. I mean, these guys were getting the ball. Gunnar Helm, 4 for 6.
Gunnar Helm was good. Yeah, Gunnar Helm was good.
Some really crucial plays. He really did step up. He was actually, if you think about it, he was kind of the spark, that offensive spark that we were looking for. I would have liked to seen Quinn move around a little bit. He was 8 for -14 yards.
He tried. I think he tried. And Quinn gets sacked 5 times.
Quinn does get sacked quite a bit.
So I think he gets hit a little. And you can see he tries to get out of the pocket a couple times. And I think Oklahoma, this is the difference. The one thing, so we spied Anthony Hill and Jalen Milroe.
Right.
We don't spy Anthony Hill, even in-game adjustment-wise, on Dylan Gabriel. And I think if you do that, it shuts his ability to run the ball, and you force him to throw to beat you.
Right.
And as we saw, he wasn't able to do so except for that last drive.
Right.
So I think I think Texas is going to learn from that. The last thing I think that went wrong in this game is the turnover battle.
Right.
Listen, Quinn after the second turnover, I think at one point completes 17 or 20 straight passes. He ends up 19.
So go ahead.
He ends up actually having a really good game.
Right.
If Quinn has that, and he doesn't throw any touchdowns to offset the interceptions, I think that's the other thing. If Quinn does one of two things, obviously you want to limit to turnovers, but I still think with the 3 turnovers, Texas wins this game if Quinn gets at least 1 touchdown pass.
So Quinn threw 31 for 37 for a whopping 346 yards.
He torched that to the secondary.
Yeah, he did. Dylan Gabriel threw 23 of 38 for 285 yards and a touchdown. Now, if you look at that, if you look at that on paper, you're thinking, "Oh, Texas wins this easily, hand down." However, those 2 interceptions were absolutely they just did not help. And again, these are both tip passes. Now, one thing I do want to continue to harp on that I haven't really talked about. I haven't talked about it this year, but it's my running thing with Quinn Ewers. And I sent you a TikTok. And I don't know if you watched it or not.
I think I did. Yeah.
The throw god. I know he's a little unhinged. However, he's right. And I told you when I sent this, I said, this is a former 5-star Nebraska Cornhusker quarterback who has a rocket ass arm that it is telling you he is not putting any velocity on the ball. I don't know what this is all about. I don't know what's going on. If you look at the play to Tavian Sanders, it's got some loft on it. If you look at the play, the first interception that he threw, lofty. It's not I don't necessarily know why he won't put Zip on the ball in those type of situations. It absolutely blows my mind why he won't do it. But I just would like to see more velocity coming from him. Now, our good friend TJ was saying that they need the way is Malik Murphy. Absolutely not. Do I like Malik?
No, I don't think that's the way.
Absolutely not. Now, the reason why he says it is because of his velocity and his strength when it comes to throwing the ball.
I think Malik Murphy starts next year over Arch Manning, and that's a conversation we can have later on.
Whoa!
I think Sark plays this out to where he still keeps Arch, and doesn't play Arch until his third season, and Arch plays for 2 years. But that's a conversation. That's a conversation we can have.
That's a heater, boy. That's a heater. We go. Okay, all right.
If you think about the way Sark has been able to keep some of these veteran players, right, and prevented them from transferring, I think Arch buys into it too. Here's the thing. We'll talk about this. It's not for this today. I don't think Arch Manning comes to Texas if he doesn't think he's going to have a chance to play. I think Arch Manning wants to play for Steve Sarkisian so bad. There's a reason why he came to Texas. And I don't think not playing for the first 2 years is going to stop him from leaving.
Well,
I don't think it's going to force him to leave. And I don't think his family necessarily will have any back say on that.
Right. I think it's a culmination of two things, right? I told you this prior to Arch actually coming to Texas. He was already a fan, right?
Exactly.
He was already a fan, and what people need to get through their heads, Ohio States, the Alabamas, the USC guys, like you guys need to just suck it, right? Like Arch Manning was a fan of the University of Texas long before Sark got here. It just so happened that he liked what Sark was doing, and Sark was able to get him over. Do I think he would have went to Alabama? Possibly. But I don't think he goes. I honestly don't believe if Sark would have went somewhere else. Let's say Sark goes to Colorado. I don't think he goes to Colorado. I don't think he follows Sark to Colorado. I still think he comes to Texas. That's just me. Yeah. He's a fan. He was a fan prior to him being on this team. However, I mean, it sounds right. I mean, it could be a thing. Anyway, let's move on from that. Again, what went wrong? There was a number of things that went wrong. There's a number of things. I definitely think this was on Sark. I don't necessarily think this was on Quinn. Did Quinn help himself in this case? Absolutely not. But you know what the crazy thing is, and this was some stuff that you showed me off script, prior to us getting online here, is just and I guess we'll talk about this during the expectations, but what the college football realm still sees Texas as. So we'll cover that as we get, and we'll talk about the expectations as we get closer to that.
Yeah. So Longhorns are on a bye this week. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I think this is a small topic, right?
Right.
We know what this team is at this point. 6 weeks into the season, into a college football season, everybody knows what every team is at this point.
Right.
And let's not just dwell on the Oklahoma game. I think that's the easiest game to dwell on because it was the sloppiest game that Texas has had.
Right.
But if you look at the season holistically, give me 3 things, and you can just name the 3 things that you think Texas will be focusing on this week.
I don't know exactly what they're going to address. Normally I would say that I would say that I have something that they can address. Again, I think Sark has to call a better game.
Okay.
I think Sark needs to be a little bit more aggressive in his play calling.
Okay.
They've got the talent to do it. At this point, the things that they need to address: health,
All right.
aggressive play calling, being more aggressive,
All
and
right.
again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but I mean, you really have to polish up. You have to polish it. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Sark incorporate some new schemes during the off week. I don't necessarily know, but I'm tired of seeing Quinn in shotgun formation. I'm absolutely tired of seeing Jonathan Brooks getting handed the ball off and having to dance around to get to a certain hole.
Yep.
I do think that the basics are why people watch football. Like, again, I know college football, it's all about putting points on the board. I know about the pageantry, but like it's good to have the basics again. And again, I'm not saying like, you know, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is like there needs to be a little bit more variety than what we've seen. And I what they're doing, can they get back to the Big 12 championship? Absolutely. Would it be more difficult for other defenses if they add some more wrinkles or even just add some basic stuff in there? Absolutely. I think it would make them more uh more more I don't even have the words for it. But basically it would be more it would work more for them in the end.
Yeah.
Maybe run some, some single, throw some single back in there. Let's get some bunch sets and let's get some bunch concepts in there. Let's confuse the defense, right?
Yep.
What they did
Yeah.
with Alabama was
Perfect.
chef's kiss, right? They come out in a bunch form. What they do? They spread the defense
Spread
out.
it out. Yeah.
You can visibly see the defense trying to communicate with each other. They have no idea what's going on. Next thing you know, boom, big pass. Next thing you know, screen pass, 10 yards on the first play. But
Yeah.
like, where is that at?
I was very surprised there wasn't more bunch formation with 3 wide on the same. You know who had an awesome game that I don't think anybody talks about enough this last week? Jordan Whittington was unreal last week. 10
Absolutely.
catches, 110 yards. He caught everything. I think, and you know what? The MO of the passing game is to force the game to Xavier Worthy. I don't think they did that enough until the fourth quarter.
Right.
I think Xavier Worthy ends up with 10 catches, 108 yards, 8 catches, 108 yards on only 10 targets.
Right.
Bro, I'm force feeding. Cool, you stopped him on a screen pass. How much more can you continue to stop him? Because I don't think OU's secondary was that good.
There's intermediate routes that, I mean, absolutely
killed him. He
God.
torched him. And I didn't. OU was obviously defending over the top, right?
Right. Everybody's going to defend over the top.
But you have to do something to bring those safeties in. And you talked about this.
A.D. Mitchell has burned Alabama. Xavier Worthy has burned Alabama. They have literally there's at least outside of the Oklahoma game, there's been 1 or 2 plays where they get beat, where Texas beat somebody over the top.
Yep.
Every game outside of this Oklahoma game.
Yep.
So, of course, what is Oklahoma going to do? They're going to do what they can to not get beat over the top.
Yep.
Did you take out the Jatavian Sanders hit, possibly injury? He's still, again, healing from the previous game. That I do think was definitely a factor in this game. He was not 100%. Did he look good? Absolutely. After that hit, it was like things started to get a little bit shaky. So when you don't have Jatavian, right, which is this guy's going to keep your defense honest, right? Because now you can't just sit back and expect that defense to just sit back there because you got a stud running through the middle, cutting up your linebackers and your safeties, making your safeties look like a goddamn fool. That is not, but that option is gone. But there were been plenty of times, again, Xavier Worthy was cooking people up in these mid-range routes where he wasn't necessarily getting the ball. There was a couple of situations where even AD didn't necessarily get the ball in a situation where he was basically cooking out people in these mid-range routes. Now, I don't know if Quinn was scared to put these balls in the intermediate range. And when I mean intermediate range for the people watching, I'm talking 7, 10, 15 yards.
15 yards.
Yeah, 15. And that, if you go back and watch watch some of those plays, some of those Oklahoma defensive players are absolutely getting cooked. And he just didn't throw it.
Every play. But I think some of those plays where he saw it, I think Quinn hesitated a lot in this game too.
And
I saw a lot of hesitation, and I haven't seen that a lot this year. I feel like he second guessed himself on a lot of different things.
The one person that he doesn't hesitate to throw the ball to was knocked out of the game, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Right.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I don't know if you're watching, but I'm watching very closely. Houston is up 3 on West Virginia right now with 30 seconds to go. So we'll keep an eye on that. Basically, if that stands, Oklahoma and Texas went out. December 3rd is now guaranteed. Houston, like I said, 35-32, second down and 10. Cougars just knocked down the ball at the line of scrimmage. West Virginia has the ball with 22 seconds to go. 4th and 10 right now.
For West Virginia?
For West Virginia. Basically, if they stop them, and they don't. All right, Houston gave up basically Houston, and West Virginia just scored. Cool. West Virginia escapes.
Right.
Yeah.
And in that note, we have to pay attention to this because West Virginia, even if they lose to Oklahoma, because they play Oklahoma this year, even if they lose to Oklahoma, they do not play Texas. West Virginia does not play Texas. If they were to somehow win out, God forbid, if they win out, they win this game, even with a loss to Oklahoma, they're still in the Big 12 championship. Texas does not represent in the Big 12 championship because West Virginia this year does not play Texas. So
it doesn't matter if as long as Texas wins out, they're in.
Right, but okay, but what I'm saying
what happens in a 3-way tie?
Right, but Oklahoma beats Texas, right? So they're in if they win out. West Virginia, if they lose, even if they lose to Oklahoma and they beat U of H, they're still in.
Right. West Virginia has to. They could drop another game. There's a lot of football.
Again, Kansas, Oklahoma has to be worried about Kansas. There's
got a couple tricky games in there.
There's a couple of tricky games. Again, you don't want to. Does Kansas State look pretty crappy? Absolutely, but they've only lost one game. They still only lost one game. Kansas only lost one game. West Virginia is still undefeated. So we still have conference play. We got U of H next week. Yep. I think that kind of goes into our expectations on what we think is going to happen next. Harish, what are your expectations moving forward? From this point on, we know that they lost Oklahoma. Lick your wounds, get healthy, get better, correct your mistakes. What are your expectations from now?
You just win every game. You got to take it one game at a time. Don't worry about the standings. Don't worry about the media. Don't worry about what anybody says. Texas has to go back to doing what it did the first 5 weeks of the season. I do think they Red River really caught them off guard. Mm-hmm. And I don't think this Texas team was as focused as we thought they would be.
Yeah.
Because if they were, this game shouldn't have been close. I still don't think Oklahoma is as good as Texas. Now, they are better than Texas right now. They are better than Texas on last week.
Right.
But if I look at the overall landscape and this team were to play 10 times, I think Texas beats Oklahoma more than Oklahoma beats Texas.
I agree with you. In just, again, we don't want to get too far ahead, but if things are to play out the way we think they're going to play out, since the start of the season, if things are to play out the way we think they are, Texas would meet Oklahoma again. One thing that is very, very difficult in any type of sports, but especially football, is to go in and beat a team a second time. Now, has
Yep.
Oklahoma been notorious for doing this? Yes. However, this Oklahoma team is not as talented as these Oklahoma teams of the past.
Yeah. They're
Again,
better. They're better than last year.
are they better? Are they better than last year? Absolutely. I'm not discrediting them. They are definitely better than what they were last year because they were an absolute joke. And I thought Brent Venables, if they lost this game for sure, would have been, some rumblings. I'm pretty sure would have started to happen, especially if you got your guy in the game and you still didn't win. That would have been a different talk. But
especially with the way things went, if Texas played that bad and Brent Venables still couldn't get it done,
right,
it would not have been a fun week for OU. So, but that's not our reality. We have to live in
right. It's not the reality right now. It is something to still think about. But what my expectation is that, again, this should piss you off enough to want. Do you remember that Bob Stoops year? When Bob Stoops came into Oklahoma, I want to say it was 2000 year, maybe even 2001. He was stomping mud holes in everybody's ass. They didn't pull up at nothing. Now, granted, were we in a BCS era? Absolutely. And points did matter in the BCS era. However, so he was running the score up. This, and I know Sark is really big on integrity and respect and dignity and things of that nature. This should piss you off enough to where you just want to go AWOL on everybody. You want to go in and you want to blast. You should want to hang 60, 50 on everybody. What happened?
Houston just won.
Oh, my God.
This opened it up. Houston wins on a Hail Mary.
Steven Johnson with a touchdown. He had 4 receptions for 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. You are catching this live, guys.
Oh, my God. Breaking news. This officially means if Texas wins out, it will be Texas OU Part 2. If both teams win out, there's no scenario where Texas and OU does not meet.
Oh, boy. Okay, so let's talk about this. This kind of goes into next week, right? So now Texas comes in. Now Texas comes in. They're 1-2. Houston is 1-2 in the conference. Texas is Houston is 1-2 in the conference. They're coming in to Texas. They would play Texas. U of H plays Texas next week. Since it's a bye week, they'll play them on the 21st. This is going to be a major game. From this point on, again, like you said, Harish, this is you got to win out. You got to win out. You can't be BSing. This basically goes right back to what I'm saying. You need to stomp a mud hole in everybody that's in front of you. All gas, no break situation. Like, let that thing fly. If you're up big, continue to put stomp a mud hole. Now, if you can get your backup players some opportunities to get in there and get some experience, absolutely not. But we literally just talked about West Virginia having an opportunity to win the Big 12 championship. They still do. They still do.
They could win out, and it would be Texas, West Virginia.
You literally now just put you brought U of H back in, because even though they're 3-3, they can still win out.
This is crazy.
Do we expect this to happen? Absolutely not. But you just brought U of H. You just brought U of H back in the conference situation. Now things are open.
Things are getting really interesting.
Now things are open, right? So now,
oh my!
Play. This is nuts.
We just brought it to you live on Texas Longhorn Fan Battle.
So
shout out to the Cougs.
Shout out to the Cougs, man. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to y'all. You know what I'm saying? So right now, as we speak, the Big 12 standings as we speak, Oklahoma at 3-0, 6-0. You got West Virginia at 4-1. They're still in the race. And you got Texas at 5-1. You got Houston at the bottom. Have they won any games out of conference? Absolutely not. but now they're 2-3. So now they have 2 conference wins, and now even though they're at the bottom, they're still in the thick of things in the conference wise. So
Texas, with West Virginia's loss, Texas officially moves into second place.
There it is.
So again, everything is right in front of you as we talk about the expectation meter. Really,
Right.
in reality now, and I think Texas and OU both are as long as they continue. Because here's the thing, both teams are going to be if both teams win out, both teams will be rated highly in that conference championship game. You're
Right.
probably going to see like a 4-5, 3-5, even a 2-5, 2-4 matchup.
Right.
Because this weekend Oregon plays Washington.
Right.
Next weekend Ohio State plays Penn State.
Right.
The following weekend Michigan plays Penn State.
Right.
And then the following weekend or a few weekends after that you have the game.
Right.
All these teams that are ahead of Texas right now,
they're starting to play each other.
They all play each other. So
Right.
they're all in the same. They are all in the same conference. They will all play each other. Texas just has to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And also, this is the other thing we have to keep in mind now, because I don't think anybody realizes this. Just because Texas is ranked 9th in the AP poll doesn't mean diddly squat.
Right. Absolutely not.
Once those playoff polls first come out 2 weeks from now, Texas could be like 5 or 4. And that's the ranking that starts to take place. So in reality, for another 2 weeks, these rankings don't mean anything.
Right. And another game that we can't overlook is a big game this weekend. Notre Dame versus USC is a big game.
Yes.
That is a major game. Now, mind you, we thought last weekend, and this was even after the game, this was like probably the wildest 24 hours of football I've seen in probably a good 10 years. USC is not good.
No, they're not.
They are
horrible.
They haven't really gotten the mix yet. They almost lost to Arizona. They were up. Arizona was up 21 on them.
That game ended at like 3 a.m. by the way.
I mean, I did watch.
That was wild.
No joke. It's crazy how we started off watching the Red River Shootout. You go to bed, right? You go to bed 2-3 in the morning. You're watching USC Arizona. That game that comes down to like literally the last. That was a three overtime game. Crazy. Then you wake up 9:30 in the morning. You got pro football. It's like what more could you possibly ask for? Like, even though Texas lost, and you know what? When Texas went down, I was not actually. I was not down.
I wasn't panicked.
I wasn't. It's so crazy because at first, back I would say 2-3 years ago, I'd have been pissed. But when Jonathan Brooks scored that touchdown and he ran, and I was just like, why did they keep running the ball? I was like, oh, he's gonna pop one. He's gonna pop one eventually. And that left side was really difficult for him to get one off, but he finally got it. I was like, okay, here we go. So yeah. That was there's some stuff again. There was some really positive things in that game. There were a lot more negative than positive, unfortunately. That's what happens when you end off with a loss. I don't know what happened defensively to where they collapse in the fourth quarter. Dylan Gabriel throws a ball over their head. Defensive back doesn't even he's literally had to guard 2 people. You either take the guy or you take the guy in the back. You hope the guy that he gets lost in the sea of orange in the back of the end zone. Doesn't necessarily happen. Ball game, right?
Yep.
So,
what is your expectation meter? I know we got obviously that game kind of threw us off. That is an important game.
Right.
We've got one more thing to talk about. So, what is your expectation meter moving forward?
My expectation is to continue to move as planned. Like you basically have, as long as you take care of business, things are working out the way that working out in a way and a favor to where you're getting in. You're basically waltzing back into Dallas. In that first weekend of December. You have an opportunity to go in there and really make a play for a playoff. Like I know that seems like it's so far, it's so far from 6 weeks is far.
Yep.
But you really have an opportunity to get in here as long as you handle business. I still think Texas is the best team in the conference. Some people will say no because of the fact that Oklahoma beat Texas. But if you really think about it, outside of Dylan Gabriel running for a bunch and that ball, those two turnovers, Texas wins that game, and they're able to actually get a win cleanly.
Yep.
Texas is up. If you think about it, Texas goes up 24-14, 24-10.
Yep.
Like this is not a close ball game. So again, got to come in, got to maximize. Got to come in and maximize. What's your expectations?
Yeah, I think this team gets to the Big 12 title game. This right. The schedule is not difficult.
No.
And I think all of Texas's difficult games have passed. I think it kind of laid in their lap, right? And I think this was regardless of whether they beat Oklahoma or not. At Houston, obviously playing at Houston will be a little difficult. It is an afternoon game officially, 3 p.m. kickoff. It's going to be rowdy in there. Texas is going to have to vote. It's going to come down to focus, right?
Right.
BYU at home. You don't have to go to Provo, which is a godsend.
Right.
And then you get two straight home games. BYU at home, Kansas State at home. You don't have to go to Manhattan.
Right.
Kansas State's always a tough game for Texas. Even though Texas has won the last 6, Kansas State is always a tough matchup. I think the trickiest game left is at TCU. And TCU is not good this year. But it comes down to, are you going to play down to your competition? We have not played well against TCU, regardless of how good or how bad they are. We have not played well against TCU since they've been in the conference. So you go to at TCU. If that's a night game, that is the game that I think Texas can get tripped up on. I had Texas losing that game early in the season.
Right.
So
I had Kansas as them losing to Kansas.
I had them losing to Kansas and TCU back to back. I had this team finishing 10-2.
Right.
So and then I'm not worried about Tech, and I'm not worried about Iowa State. You go to Iowa State.
Tech. I'm always worried about Tech because Tech does tend to play pretty hard. Again, this is going to be the last. We also got to think about this. This is the last hurrah for a lot of these teams to get their heads in the game and crack Texas on the way out, right?
Yep.
Crack Oklahoma on the way out, right? So, we're gonna see a lot of the best shots from a lot of these teams on the way out. So this is gonna be their Super Bowl. You mentioned U of H. I don't care what anybody says. U of H playing against Texas at U of H at 3 p.m. on Fox. That is going to be the U of H, University of Houston's biggest game in their program's history. I don't give a damn.
Well, the game's sold out. The game is sold out.
Absolutely, as it should. So, U of H ain't nothing but this big. First off, like we know that game is going to be sold out. But if you ask me, if a number, what are we ranked 9 right now? A number 9 Texas rolling into the Big 12, rolling into University of Houston. You got U of H. They're the newcomers. What way to try? You just beat undefeated West Virginia. You got all the confidence in the world. Absolutely, you're going to get the most out of them next week.
Yeah,
so just be prepared to see the U of H swinging hard.
It's all about focus, man. That's a 3 p.m. game. I'll actually be in Houston next week, so
that's going to be fun.
So I will definitely find a way to check out that game. Last thing I want to talk about, and actually, we're already at 1 hour and 10 minutes, so I'm actually thinking about pushing this to next week because I think this would be a good topic to talk about as we enter in next week. But to give you a sneak peek, Sark's comments this week, he said a couple of things that I thought were really interesting. Mm-hmm. And I actually want to spend some time on this. I don't want to rush through this one. I actually want to get your thoughts on this one. So we will take this and we will save it for next week. For those of you guys that don't know, I actually got a chance to listen to Sark's press conference on Monday, and he said some things that I found very interesting. So we'll talk about that next week. Push that in the next week and preview for Houston. Texas will be in Houston next week, 3 p.m. This week is a bye week. Longhorn fans, it's been a hell of a 6 weeks. So take some time, breathe, relax. Right. Texas doesn't play this week. No stress. And while you're not stressing, Tim, can you tell the folks where they can find you?
Again, you guys can always find me at Tim Wayne on Twitter. You can also find me at Tim Wayne on Instagram. Again, I'm more active on Twitter, so go ahead, reach out to me on Twitter. Let's talk. Let's talk about UT. Let's talk about football in general. Who do you have in the Heisman? Who do you think is going to make the playoffs? Let's talk about it. We don't necessarily have to just stay with Texas. Me and Harish watch football all day, 48 hours if we had the opportunity to do it. And we do it faithfully. That's what's brought us together. So, again, you can find me at Tim Wayne. That's TIM Wayne all together. Again, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. What are your socials?
Down here in the ticker. Yeah, you can find me at the Uncle Gandhi. I'm also the Longhorn Fan Battle. Talk about everything. I'll be talking a lot of cash, everything for a lot of sports. Absolutely. It's Rangers, it's Astros, it's the silver boot for an opportunity to go to the World Series. I've been waiting for this day, Sunday, 7:15 p.m. in 1 in Houston for 12 years at this point.
Right.
Texas has not been back to the ALCS since they went back to the World Series and choked it off 12 years ago.
Yeah, that was a rough one. That was when I beat up.
Yeah. As a Rangers fan, I'm very excited to be back in this position. I think about mid-season when Texas really started rolling, this was my expectation for this team, was to make the LCS, and they did that. So very happy this team is here. Very interested to see what happens. With that being said, we're going to beat the cheaters because that's what the good guys do. We always beat up the cheaters. So, game 1, 7:15 p.m. Talk to me about it on Twitter. At Longhorn Fan Battle, just posted a tweet talking about this insane game that just occurred.
Right.
Again, officially, if Texas and OU went out, we'll see a rematch. We will see a rematch in Arlington. So, very exciting. Tim, any last thoughts?
I don't really have any last thoughts. What I will say is that actually I do. I have one last thought. I do understand, and to kind of go into what you were saying, there's really no need to panic right now. Did we want Oklahoma to lose? Absolutely. I think if Oklahoma loses, I honestly think we are the number 1 team in the country. However, that didn't necessarily work out. So we're gonna have to, again, scratch and claw and make sure we get back into the driver's seat. Keep ourselves in a situation. Again, we are kind of in the driver's seat right now with that loss to West Virginia, but just to maintain and keep that driver, keep that seat so that we can eventually be back in Dallas on the first weekend of December. So not really any time to panic. Texas is still a really, really good football team. Again, a lot of things that they need to clean up defensively. Again, a lot of things they need to clean up offensively, play calling, coaching, all of that. But that's what you have the bye week for, right? To get healthy, refocus, right? You've been beat. Now, how do you respond, right? So that's what this week should be about. And I hope that they've opened their eyes and they realize, hey, we are beatable when we come out flat. But for the most part, I think this team is still one of the best teams in the country.
For those of you guys, last thought before we get out of here, for those of you guys that are curious about the games that have playoff implications this week, Oregon obviously plays Washington, 3:30 p.m. on ABC. UNC plays Miami, 7:30 p.m. on ABC. And then, of course, USC versus Notre Dame. All have playoff implications this week. So
this is a really, really big week. Yep. Things are going to – the college football poll as we know it right now, that's going to get shaky. This is where the drama starts. It's crazy that you would think on a bye weekend this is where things start to get really shaky. But come next Monday or come next Thursday, we're gonna be talking about a whole different poll that comes out. And in 2 weeks, we got that first poll for that playoff poll. So yeah,
we'll definitely have a much clearer picture 2 weeks from now because next week there's some big matchups too. Obviously, you got Penn State, Ohio State, and a couple others next week. So that first college football playoff poll will actually probably, if Texas just wins these next 2 games, we'll have them in a really good space. So,
Right.
But until then, hey, my name is Harish. This is my guy, Tim Wayne.
Yes, sir.
We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Gable.
Go home, touchdown like the end zone.